The first time Rowan Vale rejected me, she did it beneath 100 white lights while half our university watched. The second time she destroyed my life, she did not say a word. She simply walked into the executive boardroom 7 years later, took the chair at the head of the table, and became my new CEO. I was standing beside a 12-foot screen when the doors opened. 32 directors turned toward her. So did I. For one impossible second, the years between us disappeared. Rowan still wore black as though every other color had personally disappointed her. Her dark hair was shorter now, cut cleanly beneath her jaw. A thin silver scar crossed the edge of her left eyebrow. The newspapers had never captured that detail. They had captured everything else. Youngest alpha to control Vale Meridian Biotech. The woman who forced 3 pharmaceutical companies into a merger before breakfast. The Black Crown of Boston. My first love. My first heartbreak. And apparently, the woman deciding whether I still had a job. Rowan stopped at the head of the table. Her gray eyes found mine immediately. She did not look surprised. That frightened me more than if she had. "Continue," she said. Her voice had changed. Lower, colder, powerful enough to quiet a room without rising. I tightened my fingers round the presentation remote. As I was explaining, the numbers in Meridian's North Star suppressant trial cannot be authentic. The chief operating officer, Helena Marr, leaned back in her chair. She was a polished beta woman with silver at her temples and the permanent expression of someone smelling smoke. "That is a serious accusation, Miss Hart. It is a serious discrepancy." I clicked the remote. 2 sets of clinical data appeared side by side. The trial reports a 94% stability rate across 800 Omega participants, but the pharmacy records show emergency neutralizers issued to 211 of them. Either the medical teams distributed emergency drugs for entertainment or adverse heat events were removed from the final report. Silence spread around the table. I had spent 5 months building that case. 5 months of corrupted spreadsheets, missing consent forms, duplicate patient numbers, and managers telling me I was being too thorough. Thorough was what Vale Meridian paid me to be. At 29, I was the youngest senior clinical data auditor in the company. My work was not glamorous. I did not develop miracle drugs or appear beside smiling patients in advertisements. I found the numbers people hoped no one would question. And those numbers were screaming. Helena folded her hands. "The North Star launch begins in 48 hours. Are you recommending we suspend a $9 billion product because several emergency patches were recorded under the wrong category? I am recommending we stop selling certainty until we know how many Omegas were harmed to manufacture it." Several directors looked down. Rowan did not. Her attention remained on me with an intensity my body remembered before my mind allowed it. 7 years earlier, those eyes had softened whenever I entered a room. Then, on the night I believed she would ask me to form a permanent bond, she had stood on the Winter Gala stage and announced that an ambitious alpha could never build a future with an unstable Omega. Unstable. She had used the word my parents feared most. I had left the university 3 days later. Now Rowan looked at my evidence and said, "Suspend the launch." The boardroom erupted. Helena rose. "You cannot make that decision after one presentation." I just did. The acquisition does not give you unlimited authority. Rowan removed one black glove, finger by finger. "Read the agreement again." Helena's face tightened. I should have felt victorious. Instead, the first wave of heat moved through my body. It began beneath my ribs, a sudden pulse of warmth, too deep and too sharp to be ordinary anxiety. My fingers slipped against the remote. No. My cycle was not due for another month. I had taken my suppressant at 6 that morning. I had scanned the seal myself. The medication had been stable for 3 years. Another wave struck. Hotter. Wrong. I forced my shoulders to remain straight. There is one more issue, I said. The screen blurred at the edges. I clicked to the final slide. A chain of batch numbers appeared. The emergency events were concentrated in 3 North Star batches. All 3 were cleared by the same internal authorization. My scent blocker vibrated against my collarbone. Once. Twice. Then it went dead. Every alpha in the room stopped moving. The silence was immediate and terrible. My scent had not fully broken through, but it was there. Warm vanilla, rain-soaked jasmine, and the unmistakable edge of an Omega entering heat. Helena stared at me. One of the alpha directors pushed back his chair. Rowan was already standing. Everyone out. No one moved. Her voice sharpened. Now. Chairs scraped against the floor. The beta directors moved first. 2 alphas followed. A third remained beside the windows, breathing too carefully. Rowan looked at him. Mr. Dane. She needs assistance. She needs you outside. His jaw flexed. You are also an alpha. And I am the alpha who signs your access clearance. He left. Helena did not. If this becomes public 2 days before launch. Get out, Helena. The COO's gaze moved from Rowan to me. Calculation passed through her eyes. Then she gathered her tablet and walked toward the door. As she crossed the threshold, Rowan spoke again. Executive floor containment. Shut down the ventilation loop. Lock every access point and move all alpha staff below level 30. Helena turned. You are locking an entire floor for 1 employee. Rowan looked directly at me. I am securing the floor because someone triggered an Omega's heat inside a sealed boardroom. The doors closed behind Helena. The lock turned red. I was alone with Rowan Vale. My body recognized her before I could control it. Her scent deepened in the quiet room. Cedar, black tea, winter air. The same scent that had once clung to my college sweaters. The same scent I had spent 7 years teaching myself to forget. I stepped backward. Rowan immediately moved away. I will stay on this side of the room. Open the door. The corridor ventilation is still active. I said open it. Her hand tightened once at her side. Then she pressed the security panel. The door unlocked. You may leave, she said, but there are 6 alphas on the other side of the isolation line, and the emergency medical team has not been verified. I stared at her. You locked them out. I locked everyone out. Including help. Until I know who changed your medication, yes. The heat climbed higher. My knees weakened. Rowan took 1 instinctive step toward me. I lifted my hand. She stopped so quickly, the heel of her shoe struck the floor. Do not touch me. Pain crossed her face, gone almost before I saw it. I will not. You do not get to become protective now. I know. The answer was too quiet. I hated it. I hated her control. I hated the memories inside her scent. I hated the part of me that felt safer because she had emptied an executive floor in less than a minute. My hand shook as I reached inside my bag for my emergency neutralizer. The injector was there. The seal was not. The plastic ring around the cap had already been broken. My blood turned cold. Rowan saw my expression. What is it? Someone opened this. I held it up. She did not approach. Do not use it. I know. May I call a physician you choose? The room tilted. I gripped the table. Dr. Priya, Sen Harbor Omega Clinic. Rowan picked up her phone. Number. I recited it. She called on speaker and placed the device on the table between us, close enough that I could reach it without going near her. Priya answered on the second ring. Lena. My heat started early. Her voice became professional immediately. How early? 28 days. Did you take your suppressant? Yes, my blocker failed, and my emergency injector has a broken seal. A pause. Where are you? I looked at Rowan. Vale Meridian Executive Boardroom. Priya swore softly. Rowan's eyebrow lifted. Dr. Sen, she said, this is Rowan Vale. Tell me what you need. Distance, filtered air, chilled water, and an unopened neutralizer from a batch I can verify. Rowan was already typing. There is an Omega Safety Suite 2 rooms east. I gave her a disbelieving look. Since when? Since this morning. That answer lodged beneath my ribs. Priya continued. Lena, can you walk? Yes. I took one step. The floor shifted beneath me. Rowan moved again, then forced herself to stop. Her hands remained open at her sides. May I help you? 7 years of anger rose between us. The girl I had been wanted to scream no. The woman I had become looked at the open door, the empty corridor, and the 18 feet separating me from the safety suite. Give me your arm, I said, nothing else. Rowan crossed the distance slowly. She offered her forearm instead of taking mine. I placed my hand on the black fabric of her sleeve. Her entire body went still. Not possessive. Not triumphant. Careful. We walked into the corridor. Gold emergency lights glowed along the walls. Every office door was locked. The executive floor, normally filled with assistants, attorneys, and directors, had become silent. My heel caught against the carpet. Rowan steadied her arm, but did not touch me. You knew I worked here, I said. It was not a question. Her jaw tightened. Yes. Before you acquired the company. Yes. The safety suite door opened. I released her arm, as though the fabric had burned me. Inside waited a low bed, sealed medication cabinet, air purifier, water, and a medical terminal already connected to Priya's clinic. Rowan stopped outside. The room locks from within. I cannot override it. You installed this today. I ordered it 3 weeks ago, when the acquisition began. Yes. I stepped into the room. Was any of this acquisition about me? Rowan's control cracked. Only slightly. Enough. More than it should have been, she said. I closed the door in her face. Priya arrived 18 minutes later with 2 nurses, a sealed medication case, and the expression of a woman prepared to fight an entire corporation. Rowan made every person pass identity verification before the isolation doors opened. Then she stayed outside. Priya scanned my blood, checked my temperature, and examined the broken injector. Your heat was chemically accelerated, she said. This was not suppressant failure. What triggered it? I need a laboratory to confirm the compound, but the pattern resembles an early North Star formulation. I stared at her. The drug I had spent 5 months investigating was inside my body. That formula was discontinued. Officially. Priya held up a sealed neutralizer. She showed me the batch number, expiration date, pharmacy record, and chemical indicator before breaking the seal in front of me. Your choice, she said, injection or patch. Patch. The neutralizer cooled my skin within minutes. The heat did not disappear, but the sharpest edge softened enough for me to think. Thinking made everything worse. Someone knew I was presenting the North Star evidence. Someone knew the exact suppressant I used. Someone had opened my emergency injector and placed an experimental compound inside my system before I entered Rowan's office. And Rowan had known I worked at Meridian before spending $4 billion to take control of it. Priya followed my gaze toward the closed door. She has not moved, she said. That is not comforting. I did not say it should be. You always disliked her. I disliked what you became after her. That hurt because it was true. For a year after Rowan rejected me, I had treated every kindness like a trap. Every alpha command sounded like hers. Every crowded room became another winter gala. I rebuilt myself slowly. New city, new degree, new name on a lease no one else controlled. I chose clinical auditing because numbers could be challenged. Numbers could be traced. Numbers did not wake one morning and decide you were too unstable to love. Priya packed a blood sample into a secure case. You need 6 hours of monitoring. I need my laptop. You need rest. Someone used an illegal drug on me because I found missing trial events. And your temperature is still elevated. I can investigate horizontally. Priya looked toward the ceiling, as though requesting patience from a higher power. 20 minutes. 40. 30. Agreed. She opened the door. Rowan stood exactly where I had left her. Her jacket was gone. Her sleeves were rolled to her elbows. 4 phones and a tablet sat on a small corridor table. She had apparently built a command center without crossing the threshold. When she saw me, relief moved across her face before control covered it. How are you? Drugged. Her expression hardened. Priya handed her nothing. The blood stays with me. Good. That surprised both of us. Rowan looked at me. What do you need? My laptop, the unedited North Star database, access to procurement records, trial site communications, and executive authorization logs. Done. And answers. Her stillness changed. Priya glanced between us. I will be 30 feet away. If either of you raises Lena's pulse for a non-medical reason, I am returning with a sedative. For whom? Rowan asked. I have not decided. She left. Rowan placed my laptop on the table inside the room, then stepped back outside again. You can come in, I said. The neutralizer is active. Do you want me in? The question irritated me because it mattered. I want the truth. She entered and chose the chair farthest from the bed. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I asked, why did you buy this company? Vale Meridian belonged to my father until his death. Control passed to a family trust. 3 months ago, I learned the company had continued North Star testing after the safety board ordered it stopped. That explains the acquisition. It does not explain me. Rowan looked at her hands. Your name appeared on an internal retaliation report. My stomach tightened. What report? She turned her tablet toward me. A confidential document filled the screen. Employee risk, Lena Hart. Below it were my address, clinic, prescription provider, work schedule, and photographs taken outside my apartment. For one terrible moment, I could not breathe. How long have they been watching me? At least 6 weeks. You knew. I discovered the file 22 days ago. And you did not warn me. I placed a security team near your building. I stood too quickly. The room tilted, but anger held me upright. You put people outside my home. At a distance. Without asking. I believed approaching you would make you run before I knew who was watching. So you watched me too. Rowan's face went pale. Yes. The honesty did not excuse it. It only made the wound cleaner. 7 years, I said, and you still decide what I am allowed to know. I was trying to keep you alive. You always have a noble reason. The words struck her. Good. I wanted them to. Rowan rose, then remained beside her chair. You are right. I had prepared for defense, for commands, for the cold arrogance everyone associated with her name. Not agreement. She continued. The security files are yours. The team has been recalled. Your residential information has been removed from our systems, and no one will follow you unless you request it. That does not repair the choice you already took. No. Why did you reject me? The question had lived inside me for 7 years. Rowan looked toward the darkened window. My father tested our compatibility without consent. The room became very still. What? He collected samples during the university health screening. North Star began as a family research project. You were one of the earliest Omegas whose markers showed an unusually stable response to my designation. Cold moved through me despite the heat. He tested students. Hundreds of them. And you knew. Not at first. I learned 3 days before the winter gala. Her voice was controlled, but her hands had begun to shake. My father offered me a trust position if I formed a bond with you. When I refused the condition, he threatened your scholarship, your clinic access, and your mother's employment. He said if I remained near you, the company would classify you as a research asset. The memory of the gala returned with cruel clarity. Rowan on the stage. White lights. Her expression empty. Unstable Omega. So you humiliated me. I believed public rejection would make the family remove you from consideration. You believed wrong. Yes. You could have told me. I was 23 and terrified. So was I. Her eyes closed. I know. No, you know now. Back then, you decided I was too fragile for the truth and strong enough for public cruelty. Rowan's control broke completely. Tears brightened her eyes, but none fell. There is no explanation that makes what I did acceptable. My throat tightened. I had imagined that conversation 1,000 times. In some versions, Rowan apologized and the pain disappeared. In others, I walked away before she could speak. Reality offered neither mercy. She had rejected me to protect me. She had also broken me because she believed protection gave her the right to choose my pain. Both things were true. My laptop chimed. The North Star procurement database had opened. I sat down because work was easier than forgiveness. The batch that triggered my heat came from somewhere. Rowan returned to her chair. Tell me where to look. For the next 30 minutes, we worked without discussing the past. It should have felt awkward. Instead, we fell into an old rhythm I had forgotten. At university, Rowan had studied corporate law while I studied biostatistics. She saw ownership structures. I saw patterns. She found the people hiding behind companies. I found the numbers they failed to hide. The 3 suspicious North Star batches had been manufactured at different facilities, different cities, different contractors. But every shipping invoice passed through the same temperature monitoring vendor. Aster Cold Chain, I said. Rowan searched the ownership record. Shell Company, formed 11 months ago. Who authorized it? Her screen filled with a digital signature. Helena Marr, Chief Operating Officer. Too easy. She would not leave her own name on an illegal shipment, I said. Unless, she believed, no one would inspect a temperature vendor. Or someone used her authorization. Rowan nodded. I opened the shipping logs. Every North Star package transmitted temperature data at 15-minute intervals. Except one. The case delivered to Meridian that morning had sent an additional signal at 8:42. 8 minutes before my board presentation. That was the trigger confirmation, I said. Rowan leaned closer to the screen, not to me. Can you trace the receiver? Internal network, executive floor. I opened the device list. The signal had been received by the boardroom climate control panel. Someone inside the room knew the compound was active. There had been 32 directors around the table. One of them had watched my heat begin exactly as planned. By the next morning, my temperature had returned to normal. My anger had not. Priya cleared me to leave under 3 conditions: sealed medication, 24 hours without work, and no emotionally reckless decisions involving former lovers. That 3rd condition is not medical, I said. It should be. Rowan waited near the elevator. She had arranged 3 options without choosing for me: a private clinic suite, a hotel registered under my own name, or transportation home after security completed a sweep I personally authorized. I chose my apartment. I will drive myself, I said. Your car is still in the underground garage. Then I will take a taxi. Rowan accepted the answer. That made leaving harder. Before the elevator doors closed, she held out a small evidence pouch. Inside was my broken injector. Priya completed the initial test. It contained Northstar compound N17 and a low-dose bonding catalyst. My stomach turned. A dependency drug. Yes. If I had used it while trapped near a dominant alpha, my body might have connected relief with that alpha's scent. Not a real bond. Something chemically manufactured and legally difficult to separate. Whoever did this expected you to help me, I said. Rowan's expression became unreadable. Or expected the cameras to show me alone with you during an induced heat. The board had been discussing whether to suspend Northstar. A scandal involving the new CEO and the auditor accusing the company would destroy both the evidence and Rowan's authority. They wanted my work dismissed as a lover's accusation, and my intervention dismissed as obsession. I looked at her. Was it? The elevator waited open behind me. Rowan could have lied. Partly, she said, but obsession is not authority. You told me not to touch you. That mattered more than anything I wanted. I entered the elevator. 7 years late. Yes. The doors closed between us. For 2 days, I worked from my apartment despite Priya's instructions. I reviewed boardroom access logs, climate panel data, and the corrupted trial reports. Rowan sent documents only when I requested them. She did not call. She did not appear downstairs. She did not send flowers or expensive apologies. She gave me something more difficult. Space. On the third night, I found the mistake. The boardroom receiver had recorded 32 devices during the presentation. Phones, tablets, watches, medical monitors. One director carried no registered device at all. Helena Marr. That seemed to clear her. It did the opposite. Helena had worn a silver brooch at her collar. I remembered because it resembled the old Vale family crest, a crown divided by a vertical line. I enlarged the boardroom footage. The brooch flashed blue at 8:42. Not jewelry. A transmitter. I called Rowan. She answered before the first ring finished. Lena. Helena received the trigger confirmation through her brooch. Keys moved beneath Rowan's voice. I am opening the footage. Do not confront her. Why? Because the product launch was suspended, but the investor demonstration is still scheduled tomorrow. I canceled it. Helena did not. I sent her the event authorization. The COO had moved the demonstration to a private hotel and invited regulators, investors, and 12 hospital networks. She intends to launch without you, I said. Rowan's voice turned cold. She cannot. Legally, she can if the board declares you compromised. Silence. I opened the emergency board petition attached to the event. It accused Rowan of concealing a prior romantic relationship with the lead auditor, manufacturing safety concerns to stop a profitable drug, and isolating an Omega employee inside her office. Every accusation contained a piece of truth arranged into a lie. They will remove you tomorrow morning, I said. That is not the immediate danger. $9 billion says otherwise. Your medical file is attached to the petition. I stopped breathing. Rowan continued. They are claiming your history of suppressant resistance made the heat inevitable. My resistance ended 3 years ago. I know. The board does not. We can release Priya's laboratory result. Then they will say your chosen doctor manufactured it. She is your doctor. That distinction will disappear by morning. The trap was elegant. If Rowan defended me, she looked obsessed. If she stepped away, Helena launched Northstar. If I testified, my evidence became the revenge of a rejected former lover. 7 years earlier, Rowan had tried to save me by making me look unwanted. Now Helena intended to destroy us by proving I had always been wanted too much. I need the original participant records, I said. They were destroyed. No clinical system destroys everything. Where were the early Northstar samples stored? My father's private research archive. Location. Rowan hesitated. Under the old university medical building. Of course. The place where our blood had been collected 7 years ago. Meet me there in 30 minutes. Lena, no. My entire body went still. Rowan heard herself. I am sorry, she said immediately. The archive may be dangerous. Will you allow me to arrange access and accompany you? It was not perfect. It was effort. You may accompany me, I said. You will not decide when I leave. Agreed. The old medical building had been closed for renovations. Rain covered its stone steps. Rowan waited beneath the entrance canopy with 2 neutral beta security officers and no alpha guards. She had remembered what being surrounded would do to me. Neither of us mentioned it. The archive elevator required a veil biometric scan and an access phrase. Rowan placed her palm against the reader. Choice before legacy, she said. The doors opened. I looked at her. Your family motto. My mother, S. My father removed it from the company charter. The elevator descended 3 floors beneath the university. Cold air met us when the doors opened. Metal shelves stretched into darkness. Thousands of sealed boxes carried coded labels instead of names. Rowan entered a search request for Northstar N17. One location appeared. Shelf C-19, Cabinet 7. The cabinet was empty. One of the security officers checked the electronic seal. Opened 12 minutes ago. The archive lights went out. Emergency, red flooded the corridor. A lock slammed behind us. Rowan moved in front of me. Stay behind. She stopped. Even in danger, she corrected herself. Someone is here. May I cover you? Only until I find another route. A sound moved between the shelves. Metal against metal. One security officer advanced. The other checked the elevator panel. System is dead. I opened the archive map on my phone. No signal. Local blueprint only. There is a specimen lift behind row 22. Too narrow, the officer said. For you, not for me. Rowan turned. Lena. The control room is 1 level above us. I can reset the doors. We do not know who is in the archive. Which is why all 4 of us should not wait beside the only exit. Her jaw tightened. I stepped closer. Trust my skill or admit you. Only respect my choices when they do not frighten you. The words hurt her. They were supposed to. Then Rowan handed me her flashlight. The specimen lift is mechanical. Turn the upper handle twice to release it. Thank you. Activate the emergency beacon if you see anyone. That is a request I can accept. I moved through the shelves. Behind row 22, I found the narrow specimen lift and pulled open its steel door. The space was barely wide enough for my shoulders. I climbed inside. As I reached for the upper handle, a voice spoke behind me. You always were difficult to classify. Helena Marr stepped from the darkness. She held a medical injector in one hand. The silver brooch at her throat glowed blue. Do not come closer, I said. You should have accepted the first incident as a warning. You triggered my heat. I created a visible conflict. Rowan created the spectacle. You tampered with clinical trials. Helena smiled without warmth. Northstar works, not perfectly, but profitably. Every important treatment reaches the market with acceptable losses. 211 omegas are not losses. They signed consent forms. Forms you altered. Her expression changed. Only slightly. Enough. My phone had no network, but the recorder was active inside my pocket. You removed the adverse events, I said. I corrected statistical noise. And my heat. A demonstration. Your response proved N17 can break through modern suppressants. The bonding catalyst would have shown how quickly a distressed omega accepts alpha stabilization. Rage made my hands steady. You used me as a trial subject. Your body was already in the original database. Rowan's father selected you years ago. She lifted the injector. One more dose and tomorrow's board will see an unstable Omega breaking into a restricted archive with her Alpha X. No one will care about your spreadsheets. I pressed the emergency beacon Rowan had given me. Nothing happened. Helena's smile widened. Local frequencies are blocked. I know. I threw the beacon into the specimen lift and turned the handle twice. The mechanical platform shot upward, carrying the device. The moment it cleared the interference field, its alarm activated. Helena lunged. I slammed the steel lift door into her arm. The injector struck the floor and rolled beneath a cabinet. She caught my coat and dragged me backward. I hit the metal shelving hard enough to lose my breath. Then Rowan crossed the darkness. She moved with terrifying speed, seized Helena's wrist, and forced her away from me. One security officer recovered the injector. The other restrained Helena. Rowan turned toward me. Her hand stopped inches from my shoulders. May I? My heart was racing. My back hurt. Every old instinct told me to prove I needed nothing. Yes. She touched my face with both hands. Carefully, as though 7 years of regret lived inside her fingertips. Are you injured? Bruised? Did she inject you? No. Rowan closed her eyes for 1 second. Then Helena laughed behind us. How touching. Tomorrow the board will still remove you. Rowan looked at me instead of her. Do you have the recording? I took out my phone. Every word. Part 4. The North Star investor demonstration began at 9 the next morning. Helena had been detained, but 6 members of the board insisted the event continue. They claimed her arrest was a private dispute. They claimed the audio recording required authentication. They claimed delaying the launch would destroy shareholder confidence. What they meant was simple. Too much money had already changed hands. The ballroom contained 400 investors, medical executives, regulators, journalists, and hospital representatives. A white North Star logo covered the wall behind the stage. I arrived alone. That mattered. Reporters surrounded me at the entrance. Miss Hart, did you experience an uncontrolled heat inside Rowan Vale's office? Were you previously involved with the CEO? Did she acquire Meridian because of you? Are you attempting to stop North Star because Rowan rejected you? I kept walking. Inside, a security manager held out his hand for my laptop. No personal devices. I am the presenting clinical auditor. Your credentials were suspended. A calm voice came from behind him. Then restore them. Rowan approached in a black suit without the Vale family pin at her collar. She looked exhausted and unmovable. The security manager stepped aside. Rowan did not touch me. You came, she said. I chose to. Something warm entered her eyes. I know. The emergency board session began on stage. The acting chair read the petition accusing Rowan of concealing our past relationship, interfering with a product launch, and misusing corporate security during my medical emergency. When he finished, he turned to me. Miss Hart, did you begin an Omega heat inside Ms. Vale's private office? Yes. Whispers moved across the room. Did Ms. Vale lock the executive floor? Yes. Were you romantically involved 7 years ago? Rowan's hands tightened at her sides. Yes. The chair looked almost satisfied. Then you admit a conflict of interest. I admit history, I said. A conflict depends on what someone does with it. I connected my laptop to the ballroom screen. My medical scan appeared beside the North Star chemical profile. At 8:42 yesterday morning, an experimental compound triggered my heat 28 days early. The compound was manufactured through a hidden North Star supply chain. The chair lifted one hand. Your private physician produced that result. 3 independent laboratories confirmed it overnight. Their reports appeared. The chain of custody was supervised by the state clinical regulator. A woman in the front row stood and confirmed it. I changed the screen. The boardroom footage showed Helena's silver brooch flashing blue. This transmitter received confirmation that the compound was active. 12 hours later, Helena Marr entered the original North Star archive and attempted to administer a second dose. The audio recording filled the ballroom. I corrected statistical noise. Your body was already in the original database. One more dose, and tomorrow's board will see an unstable omega. No one whispered now. The acting chair's face had turned gray. One executive does not invalidate an entire clinical program. Correct, I said. The answer surprised him. I opened the participant records, recovered from Helena's archive bag. 211 concealed emergencies invalidated. Names filled the screen, not patient numbers, names. Beside each name appeared the event removed from the official trial. Cardiac shock. Unplanned heat. Temporary scent dependency. Hospitalization. Loss of employment after designation exposure. These omegas were described as statistical noise because the company believed no one powerful would say their names in this room. I faced the cameras. North Star did not fail because omegas are medically unpredictable. It failed because executives treated consent as an obstacle to profitable data. Applause began somewhere in the upper level. The chair struck the table. This is not a public forum. Rowan stepped forward. It is now. She placed a document on the table. Effective immediately, Vail Meridian is canceling the North Star launch, releasing all trial records to regulators, funding independent medical care for every participant, and waiving confidentiality agreements connected to adverse events. The investors erupted. One director stood. That decision will destroy the company. Then, we will build a company that deserves to survive. You cannot authorize this while the conflict petition remains active. You are right. Rowan removed a second document. So I am resigning my family-appointed voting control. The room went silent. Even I stared at her. The acting chair leaned forward. You would surrender the Vail Trust. The trust funded North Star's original compatibility research. It profited from non-consensual samples collected from students, including Lena Hart. I will not defend her freedom while keeping power built from its violation. Her signature appeared at the bottom of the document. With one stroke, Rowan surrendered controlling rights worth billions. Not to earn me. Not to prove she loved me. To remove the leverage that had poisoned every choice between us. The board could still appoint her CEO through an independent vote, or remove her. For the first time in her life, the Vail name no longer guaranteed the chair beneath her. The acting chair looked at the other directors. All in favor of immediate suspension, pending regulatory review. Hands began rising. Not Rowan's suspension. North Star's. Then a second vote began. By noon, Helena Marr had been charged with medical tampering, assault, evidence destruction, and illegal human subject testing. The board removed every director connected to Astor Cold Chain. State regulators seized the North Star servers before anyone could erase another file. Rowan remained CEO by a vote of 26-4. Not because she inherited the position. Because after watching her burn the corrupt part of her empire, the independent board trusted her to rebuild what remained. I should have felt finished. Instead, I found Rowan alone in the empty ballroom after sunset. Staff had removed the North Star banners. Hundreds of chairs stood abandoned beneath dim lights. She looked toward me but did not approach. Your credentials have been restored, she said. Your department will report to an independent ethics committee, not to me. You arranged that quickly. I had 7 years to consider what I should have done differently. I stopped several feet away. You cannot correct the past by designing my future. I know. She took an envelope from her pocket and placed it on a chair between us. Inside was a formal release from every Vale security agreement, a guarantee that my medical care would remain funded as part of the North Star settlement, and an offer from 3 independent auditing firms seeking my leadership. None required me to stay at Meridian. What happens if I leave? I asked. Pain moved through Rowan's expression. You leave. No security following me. No. No company buying the firm that hires me. The corner of her mouth almost moved. That possibility was specifically prohibited by your attorney. Priya wrote this. She threatened to break my other eyebrow. I looked at the silver scar. What happened to the first one? I tried to force open the archive lift after your beacon activated. Despite everything, I laughed. The sound startled both of us. Rowan's face softened. Then she looked away. I loved you 7 years ago, she said, but I used love as an excuse to decide what you could survive. That was not protection. It was fear wearing a noble name. My throat tightened. And now? Her answer came quietly. Now I love you enough to let the answer be no. The ballroom felt too large. I do not forgive you yet. I know. I may never want a bond. Then there will never be one. I need to know who I am when you are not rescuing me. Rowan nodded. Then I will not follow. I picked up the envelope. At the ballroom doors, I looked back. She had not moved. For 7 years, I had imagined freedom as finally becoming strong enough not to care whether Rowan Vale wanted me. Walking away, I understood something different. Freedom was not the absence of wanting. It was having every reason to stay, every ability to leave, and knowing the decision still belonged to me. 6 months later, Heart Clinical Integrity opened on the 7th floor of a renovated brick building overlooking the harbor. The company belonged to me. We audited medical trials for suppressed adverse events, protected whistleblowers, and helped Omega clinics identify illegal data collection. Half my staff had once been told they were too difficult, too emotional, or too designated for senior work. They were excellent. Vale Meridian became our largest client only after accepting a contract that gave me full authority to publish failures without executive approval. Rowan argued about the price for exactly 4 minutes. Then she paid it. Our first personal conversation happened 2 months after the hearing. She sent one message. Would you consider coffee in a public place? I waited 3 days before answering. 1 coffee. She arrived early and chose a table beside an open door. The second coffee became dinner. Dinner became a walk through the university gardens where neither of us approached the Wintergala Hall. We learned each other again, without pretending 7 years had not changed us. Rowan was still controlling. She organized restaurant menus before arriving and treated late trains like personal betrayals. I was still stubborn. I challenged every assumption, including harmless ones, and worked until my tea became cold. We argued. We apologized. She learned to ask before solving. I learned that accepting care did not automatically create debt. There was no permanent bond. No shared home. No financial dependency. Some nights Rowan slept in my apartment with my permission. Other nights I closed the door and chose silence. She never punished the distance. That was how I began to trust her return. 1 year after my heat started in her office, Vale Meridian opened its first independent Omega Safety Center. The ceremony took place on the executive floor. The old boardroom had been rebuilt. Separate ventilation. Mechanical locks controlled from inside. Sealed medication verified by 2 independent systems. No executive override. I had designed the protocol. Priya had improved it and insulted everyone responsible for the first version. Rowan stood beside the door wearing black, naturally. "Are you all right?" she asked. "I am remembering. We can leave." "I know." That was why I stayed. After the ceremony, the floor emptied. Rain moved across the windows exactly as it had the night we entered the old university archive. Rowan remained near the boardroom table. I placed a small silver case in front of her. She looked at it and went completely still. "Lena, open it." Inside were two simple rings. Not veil rings. Not claiming rings. Choice rings, designed without family marks, legal conditions, or ownership clauses. Rowan did not touch them. "You do not owe me this." "I know. The company is stable. Your medical settlement is permanent. Your firm has independent contracts." "I know." Her voice broke. "Then why?" I walked around the table. 7 years earlier, Rowan had rejected me beneath 100 white lights because she believed cruelty could protect me. 1 year earlier, she had locked an entire executive floor because my heat began inside her office. But neither moment was why I had returned. "Because when I left, you did not chase me." Tears filled her eyes. "Because when I built a life outside your company, you did not try to own it." I took her hand. "Because every time you wanted to protect me, you learned to ask whether protection was what I wanted." Rowan looked down at our joined fingers. "Are you certain?" "Yes." "Is this a permanent bond?" "Not today." She inhaled slowly. I smiled. "Today it is a promise to keep choosing. We can discuss permanence after you survive several years of not reorganizing my kitchen." "Your kitchen has no system." "This is already going badly." Rowan laughed. The sound was quiet, surprised, and nothing like the cold CEO the world knew. She picked up one ring. "May I?" "Some things should never change." "Yes." She slid it onto my finger. I placed the second on hers. No cameras. No board. No family trust. Only two women standing inside the office, where fear had once made every decision for us. Rowan touched my cheek. She waited. I leaned closer first. When she kissed me, there was no chemical heat clouding my judgment and no locked door keeping me beside her. The boardroom exit stood open. My own office waited across the city. My car keys rested in my pocket. I could leave whenever I wanted. That was why staying meant everything. 3 months later, an emergency message reached the Omega safety network at 7:12 in the morning. An assistant on the 23rd floor believed someone had replaced her suppressants. I was reviewing trial data in Rowan's office when the alert appeared. For 1 second, the room disappeared. I remembered heat beneath my skin, a broken injector in my hand, 32 directors watching me become vulnerable, Rowan ordering everyone out. Then the memory passed. I was not trapped inside that morning anymore. I was the person answering it. I activated the safety protocol. "Lock the room from inside," I told the assistant. "Do not take medication you did not personally seal. A physician is coming." Rowan reached for her coat. "What do you need?" she asked. "Not what are you doing?" "Not you will stay here." "What do you need?" I picked up the medical response case. "Clear the elevator and meet me downstairs." "Done." She opened the office door and stepped aside so I could walk through first. 7 years ago, my alpha ex rejected me because she thought love gave her the right to choose for me. Then she became my CEO, and my heat started in her office. But Rowan did not win me back by locking the floor, surrendering an empire, or saving me from the woman who drugged me. She won the chance to love me by opening every door afterward and trusting that I would decide which ones to walk through. This time, we walked through together. If you enjoyed Lena and Rowan's story, like the video, subscribe, and comment choice for another GL romance about a powerful alpha who learns that protection means nothing without permission.